Week number 7 came to a close last night on Monday Night Football with a doubleheader, and now we must look towards week number 8. In today's video, I'm going to help you do exactly that. We are going to figure out how to evade the bye weeks, the bye-pocalypse. 6 teams on bye. The Lions, the Raiders, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I will be helping you guys set your lineup at the quarterback position, going in depth through every single matchup of the week, and telling you guys whether you should start or sit the QBs in every single matchup, as well as where I believe they'll finish by the end of the week. Before we get on into things, though, please make sure if you are new to the channel that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. We begin on Thursday Night Football with the cold-like Minnesota Vikings going up against the Los Angeles Superchargers in SoFi. Justin Herbert, the pervert, turned into Justin Fields last week as he was the garbage time king. 37 of 55 for 420 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions and 6 rushes for 31 yards as the quarterback too. The Vikings have been a brutal matchup for quarterbacks this season, but this is a textbook example of cupcake matchups for the defense and less about the Vikings being an unstoppable matchup for quarterbacks. With how reliable Herbert has been this season, I do got him as a low-end quarterback 1. Carson Wentz looked like he donated all of his brain cells before the game last week up against the Eagles. It almost felt like he forgot that he was on the Vikings and he just thought he was back on the Eagles as the quarterback again, as he just kept feeding the ball to the other team. 2 interceptions with 0 touchdowns on 42 attempts for 26 completions and 313 yards with 4 rushes for 28 yards. I would lay more into Carson Wentz, but I'm just going to save all of my rage for Tua Tagovailoa in the next game. And even with this being the 19th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis, Wentz hasn't showed me enough to trust him this week. If you are in a super flex or a 2 quarterback league, though, I would understand why you might want to play Carson Wentz. Next up, we got the Sunday slate, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Miami Dolphins at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Michael Penix's leg injury is not considered to be serious, as he is dealing with a bone bruise in his lower leg. The reports are that he could be limited in practice this week, but is expected to play on Sunday. Penix hasn't been great this season, and I don't want to pretend like he has been this super reliable fantasy football asset. Just 2 of 6 games inside of the top 18 and just 2 top 12 performances this season. Last week, he was pretty meh along with the whole Falcons offense outside of Bijan in Santa Clara against the 49ers as the quarterback 19. The matchup this week is finger-licking good. Shout out to Colonel Sanders up against the Dolphins defense as they allow the 6th most points to quarterbacks on a per-game basis. So I feel fine rocking with Penix in the quarterback 2 range as a fringe start that you would feel good about if you were in a super flex or a 2 QB league. In a 1 QB league, he's kind of like one of those break glass in case of emergency starts. Now, Tua Tagovailoa was so fucking horrid last week that the Dolphins had to bench him. This dude went 12 of 23 for 100 yards and 3 picks up against the Cleveland Browns in a very wet and rainy game. It was actually hard to watch because so many of these interceptions that this motherfucker was throwing were just so easy for the defense. One of them, the defender was mic'd up and said, "Throw me the ball, Tua," before Tua threw the ball directly to him. It was like they knew exactly what was coming. This is a complete and utter embarrassment for the Dolphins. We are the laughing stock of the NFL, and our GM is still employed, and Mike McDaniel is also still employed, and someone offered Stephen Ross, our owner, $10 billion, and the man declined it. Sell the fucking team. Sell the team. Tua plays like he doesn't give a shit. The game plan was awful. It's like they didn't even factor in the fact that it was going to be very rainy and windy. Complete and utter incompetence. And with the Falcons defense being one of the best against quarterbacks, there's no way you are starting Tua. And as a fan of this team, I hope we get blown out just terribly. I hope we don't even score a single fucking point. I guess if you're an A-Chain or a Waddle owner, maybe we get 14 points, get A-Chain, get Waddle a touchdown. But outside of that, I hope we get blown out. The New York Jets at the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Flacco turned things up a notch last week up against the Steelers. He was the quarterback 6 with 31 completions on 47 attempts for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns with 5 rushes for 3 yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers in an awesome Bengals win, back-to-back games with 18 plus points for Joe Flacco as the starter for Cincinnati. I do think eventually this heat that he's running on will get extinguished, but against the Jets, who are the 14th best matchup for quarterbacks on a weekly basis, Flacco should play well enough to finish in a high-end quarterback 2 range. Tyrod Taylor is expected to be named the Jets starting quarterback this week. Who knows how long the leash will be on him, though, and if the team could tug him out Deshaun Watson style for Justin Fields if things go tits up. Tyrod did play great back in week number 3 when he started against the Bucs as the quarterback 9. That was the game where Aaron Glenn got that meme where he was celebrating on the sideline. And then obviously they didn't end up winning that game. Of course, they don't have a single win this season. So it is entirely possible that we do end up seeing Tyrod Taylor play well against a defense that's as bad as the Bengals, who are the 9th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis. But I don't feel confident enough in Tyrod. Again, I don't really feel confident in the Jets offense as a whole. I don't know how long the leash is. So if you're in like a 2 quarterback super flex league, I'm fine starting him because the upside is high. But in your normal 1 quarterback league, he would definitely be a sit for me. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns at the New England Patriots. Now, Draco May, the Iceman, has been a monster this season, like the goddamn energy drink. Last week up against the Titans, this man set the Patriots team record for best completion percentage into the game. A team that had Tom Brady on it had its completion percentage record handed to Drake May in the 2nd year of his NFL career. Meanwhile, the Dolphins have Tua Tagovailoa out there who just loves throwing the ball to the defense, man. How fun is that? 21 completions on 23 attempts for 222 yards and 2 touchdowns with 8 rushes for 62 yards, back-to-back games inside the top 10 at the quarterback position and 5 of 7 games inside the top 10 this season. While this is the 3rd worst matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis, I am definitely a bit worried, but realistically, that number has been pretty inflated, unlike the balls when the Patriots went up against the Colts a couple of years ago in the playoffs. Actually, that was like 10 years ago at this point, but you get the point. So I think that this matchup is better than what it says on paper. So I got Draco May, the Iceman, as a top 10 option this week. Dylan Gabriel has been better than what we saw to Flacco when Flacco was in Cleveland. He seems a lot better in Cincinnati, obviously so, though, because, they have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and Cleveland has fucking Jerry Jeudy. So, yeah, obviously things are a little bit easier for him there. But it is far from something special for Dylan Gabriel. Fewer than 10 points in back-to-back games. And with the 22nd best matchup for quarterbacks on paper here on a per-game basis up against the Patriots, even with a gazillion teams on bye, he would not be in consideration for me to start him. Next up, we got the New York Football Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles, a matchup that I am very excited about. Jackson Dart is playing out of his mind over the last 2 weeks. Back-to-back top 3 quarterback finishes. Last week in Denver, he was the quarterback 3 with 15 completions on 33 attempts for 283 yards and 3 touchdowns, and 1 INT with 5 rushes for 11 yards and a rushing touchdown. The team should have won that game if their defense showed up in the 4th quarter, or if their kicker wasn't an absolute disgrace, and that is exactly why people hate on Gingers, man. Lucky Charms looking motherfucker ruined the fun for the Giants. Last time he faced the Giants in week number 6, he was the quarterback 3. He faced the Giants, like as if that's the case, right? He faced the Eagles, obviously. Gotta fire the guy that wrote the stats down here. He was the quarterback 3 with 17 completions on 25 attempts for 195 yards and a touchdown, with 13 rushes for 58 yards and an additional score. With Dart looking fantastic. Shout out to Sue Storm against the 17th best matchup for quarterbacks on a weekly basis. Dart is a top 12 option on the week. Jalen, stop, it hurts, has been a very reliable quarterback this season. He hasn't been a locked and loaded top 5 option like we expected based upon where we drafted him at ADP, but he is still a guy that you are happy to have in your lineup. Quarterback 8 in back-to-back games. Last week up against the Vikings, he was 19 of 23 for 3 touchdowns and 0 INTs with 4 rushes for negative 10 yards. Last game out up against the Giants, he was the quarterback 8 in MetLife back in week number 6. On Thursday Night Football, 24 completions on 33 attempts for 283 yards and a touchdown with 1 INT as well as 7 rushes for 13 yards. This offense has been very frustrating this season, but even with the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of the Eagles offense, Jalen Hurts has been very reliable. So in a get-back game up against the Giants, he is a must-start top 6 option. Moving now to the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills at the Carolina Panthers. Prior to the bye week, Josh Allen had a bit of a slip-up against the Falcons. The Falcons defense had him chained up, and he looks to get unchained this week in Carolina like his name was Django. 20-plus points in 4 of 6 games and 17-plus points in 5 of 6 games. You drafted Josh Allen as early as you did for the safety net that he provided. You aren't going to galaxy brain yourself and sit him after a mid-performance up against the Atlanta Falcons, especially when he's coming out the bye, right? The upside, regardless of the matchup, is the quarterback 1 overall, a guy that can put the cape on Clark Kent style and be able to win you the week by himself, regardless of the matchup. So coming out the bye week, I expect the offense to look better with a whole extra week to work on things. So while this is far from an ideal matchup, being the 24th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis up against the Panthers, he is a must-start locked and loaded top 3 option. The Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, should be the starter as Bryce Young is expected to miss week 8 versus the Buffalo Bills with an ankle injury, according to Tom Pelissero, making Dalton the QB1 for the Panthers. Dalton played in the 3rd quarter after Bryce was sacked and injured. Dalton was 4 of 7 for 60 yards up against the Jets. He is far from the ideal backup quarterback, but he also isn't one of the worst. Like Jake Browning, we did see him pop off a few times as a top 12 quarterback last year when he played, and after they ended up benching Bryce Young because he was just straight up cheeks. But in a mid-tier matchup up against the Bills, that won't swing the pendulum enough for me to feel confident in playing him. Now we move to the Chicago Bears at the Baltimore Ravens. Before we break down this game, though, at the quarterback position and the rest of the games in today's video, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends, our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description, you'll receive a free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as you play $5 in the pick'em, you'll get an additional $100 in bonus funds or in bonus entries. How does the pick'em work, you might ask? It is incredibly simple. You make at least 2 picks on the players higher or lower. If those picks hit, you get paid. If you do multiple other picks, then the payout will be higher, but all of the picks have to hit. So make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. Now, Caleb Williams hit you with a Mortal Kombat finisher last week. If you started him, get over here. Last week, if you played him up against the Saints as the quarterback, 15 completions on 26 attempts for 172 yards and 1 pick with 4 rushes for negative 2 yards in a game where DeAndre Swift and Kyle Managai formed an Eiffel Tower over that Saints defense. Now, it is important to understand that in that matchup, the team cruised to victory. So if this game could be more of a back and forth affair, a close game, we should see Williams rise to the occasion and play well in the second best matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis. I do expect Caleb to play much better, which we have seen throughout the season. It isn't like you're just expecting greatness randomly. He has had 3 games this season inside of the top 10 at quarterback. So I expect a low-end quarterback 1 finish from him this week. The hope here is that Lamar Jackson suits up this week so that the Ravens can look like an actual NFL offense, which hasn't been the case, and I am sure that Cooper Rush has told him, I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson, for spiraling this team into the gutter with Lamar Jackson out. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh. When Lamar has been healthy, he has been a top 4 quarterback in every single game. So if he is able to go with the hammy injury that held him out the last 2 games plus the bye week, Lamar is a must-start top 3 option in the 7th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. Next up, we move to Houston, the San Francisco 49ers at the Houston Texans. Based on reading through the tea leaves, Mac Jones should be under center again for the 49ers, with big cock Brock Purdy dealing with his toe injury. Again, I wouldn't bet my mortgage on the fact that he is going to be out guaranteed because it's just Tuesday. It's just Tuesday, isn't it? Right? And it's not like Friday yet where we have a lot more information. So again, just based on everything that I've read, it does seem like Brock Purdy will be out again. The Mac attack has fallen over the last 2 weeks with back-to-back games outside the top 20, with his first 3 starts all inside the top 15. The Texans matchup is the worst, the nut-low worst matchup for quarterbacks. We saw Sam Darnold turn into a turnover machine last night up against the Texans. But if I am in a pickle, I would feel fine about Mac Jones as like a last-ditch effort, break class in case of emergency quarterback 2 start. I know CJ Stroud looked great prior to the bye in week 4 and week number 5, but last week up against Seattle, we saw the version of himself from earlier on in the season. Nico Collins is banged up and is far from a lock to play on Sunday. With what we have seen out of Stroud for a majority of the season, I just would not feel comfortable playing him here in the 21st best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. Now we move to the 4 p.m. slated games, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints. Now, Baker Mayfield shit down his pant leg last week in Detroit on Monday Night Football. I am talking about missing dudes that were wide open, that there is no one near him within the same zip code, and he's sailing the ball over dudes' heads. Had me feeling sick, but not as sick as I felt seeing the cart come out for Mike Evans, man. This is going to be the end of his 1,000 receiving yard fucking rampage through the NFL. And it's just sad, man. Mike Evans seems like such a nice guy. Magic Mike Evans, been a super reliable asset for our fantasy teams for a decade at this point. So I hope Mike Evans ends up okay. Obviously for the long term, but, you know, for the rest of this season, not looking good for him coming back. Egbuka was back, but didn't play a large factor last week. But the bounce back here feels inevitable for Mr. Mayfield. Top 12 quarterback in 5 of 7 games, so one down performance after being so reliable all season doesn't magically make me want to jump off the Baker Mayfield ship. Against the Saints defense that allows the 10th most points to quarterbacks on a per game basis, Baker is a top 8 must-start option. Spencer Rattler, on the other hand, is a sit. He was on his Tua turning the ball over last week in Chicago. He had thrown just 1 interception prior to last week and threw 3 in that game. Up against the Bears, 20 completions on 32 attempts for 233 yards and 2 touchdowns with the 3 interceptions. Even in a good matchup here with the 13th best for quarterbacks on a per game basis, I don't feel good at all. He is just so uninspiring this season. Like, the upside feels like if he goes balls to the wall, from the windows to the wall to the sweat drip down by balls, I honestly think his best game would be like, even in this matchup, like the quarterback 15. So I just can't justify playing him in a 1 quarterback league. In a 2 quarterback or super flex league, though, it is okay. Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys at the Denver Broncos. Might I add, this could be the game of the week. This is a game that has me super excited to watch. Dak Prescott is on a warpath like his name was Daenerys Targaryen. 4 straight top 9 finishes with 3 of the last 4 games inside the top 6. Cedarian Lamb is back, and this offense is firing on all cylinders. Quarterback 9 last week up against the Commanders with 21 completions on 30 attempts for 264 yards and 3 touchdowns with 5 rushes for 7 yards. The Broncos defense is a tough task for quarterbacks, allowing the 29th most points on a quarterback to quarterbacks on a per game basis. But with the Denver defense getting face fucked by Jackson Dart and the Giants last week, I feel very good about Dickie Dak Prescott as a top 6 option this week. Bo Nix was another one of the garbage time goats last week. Things were looking so bleak last week for the Broncos. If you started any other players, you were sitting there being like, why did I even bother? How is this possible? How are the Giants blanking them? And, you know, it's the 4th quarter. It's like nothing's going well. And then the team flipped the switch. Flip, and scored 33 points in the final quarter and won the game on a field goal because the Giants kicker is a disgrace. 27 of 50 for 279 yards and 2 tugs with 5 rushes for 48 yards and 2 scores as the quarterback won. That's 4 scores. Shout out to Abe Lincoln for Bo Nix. Against a Cowboys defense that allows the most points to quarterbacks on a per game basis, I expect Bo Nix to carve them up like a pumpkin as a top 8 start on the week. Next up, we move to Indianapolis with the "This is our Colts, this is our team, we bleed blue," playing up against the Tennessee Titans at the home that Jim Irsay built. Danny Dimes has been sensational this season. Back-to-back games inside the top 12, and with the offensive line that he has there is no reason for the man to slow down. The only thing that can possibly handicap him from having a top 12 game would be Jonathan Taylor playing so well that DJ isn't able to get his 2 touchdowns, or that they're up so big that they just run the ball a ton late. And last week, they beat the piss. I don't give a piss about nothing but the tide of the LA Superchargers, and Danny Dimes still played great with 23 completions on 34 attempts for 2 touchdowns and 5 rushes for 7 yards. Even with this being a rough matchup on paper, I'm going to keep relying in Mr. Danny Stumbles as a low-end quarterback 1. Cam Ward has got to be the most frustrating quarterback to watch this season. They don't really have any great pieces around him. His head coach got fired not even halfway into the season. You might think maybe this game up against the Patriots next week, that'll push some life into him. The interim head coach is coming in, Mike McCoy. Maybe things are different. It's the same shit, different day. The guy continues to take a million sacks and make terrible rookie mistakes. We're 7 games into the man's career, and he hasn't had a single top 20 finish this season. I'm not off of Cam Ward. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, because you sucked ass for the first 7 games of your career, you're a guaranteed bust, right? We've seen quarterbacks play great after being terrible for years in the NFL. So I'm not out on Cam Ward yet, but obviously for this season, you got to be all out. There's no way you can even remotely play him. I get, oh man, like he really hasn't scored more than 10 points just twice this season, but it's the 12th best matchup. And then people like jump for joy because they're, spreadsheet nerds, and they think just because the 12th best matchup, he's going to have a great game, right? It's Cam Ward, man. Don't do it. Do not do it, even in super flex or 2 quarterback leagues. Now we move to, cause you waited all day for Sunday night, the Green Bay Packers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Aaron Rodgers Mr. Discount double check revenge game has me feeling real nicey. I am so excited to see what Rodgers does here in the 15th best matchup on a per game basis for quarterbacks. Rodgers was the quarterback 7 last week up against the Bengals in Cincinnati with 23 completions on 34 attempts for 249 yards and not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdowns straight to the face. Shout out to Tabes with 2 INTs. I still think in most weeks you shouldn't be comfortable rocking with the ayahuasca god, but with the revenge game narrative shining bright here, and with Rodgers playing so well last week, and the fact again that there's 6 teams on bye, I got Aaron Rodgers in that low-end QB2 range. Every single week about Jordan Love, I say the exact same thing. And basically every single week this season, it has come true. This guy will finish most games with quarterback 13 to 18 due to how good Josh Jacobs is, for 1, and for 2, due to how good the defense is. Jordan Love doesn't need to sling the rock all over the yard and throw for 300 plus yards and multiple touchdowns to win football games. In most games, he will be a fine start, but with the upside feeling so limited in most games, his best game was up against the Cowboys back in week 4, where I said he was going to have a good game because it's the easiest matchup for quarterbacks. He's the quarterback 6, and that was his only game inside the top 12. This is the 4th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis that just saw Joe Flacco drop some haymakers onto the defense. So this is one of those upside games, but ultimately due to his track record, we should be operating with him as just a high-end quarterback number 2. Final game here, Monday Night Football, the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Commanders fans are absolutely down tremendous. I'm talking crazy all summer long. Now it's Washington Wizards season. I'm only kidding. Of course, the Commanders can figure things out. Jaden Stormy Daniels left last week's game up against the Cowboys with a hamstring injury and is uncertain to play on Monday Night Football. The injury is not considered to be long-term, but reading through the tea leaves, it doesn't sound the most positive on him actually playing. If he plays, though, you play him. He was playing well up against the Cowboys prior to his injury, just 69% of the snaps. Very nice, I like. As the quarterback 13 in Jerry's world with 12 completions on 22 attempts for 156 yards and a touchdown with a bunch of fucking Walmart workers out there as his wide receivers with 8 rushes for 35 yards and another one. Shout out to DJ Khaled, another touchdown. If he plays against the Chiefs defense and is dealing with the injury, He's more of a lower end quarterback one due to the tough matchup and him likely being limited rushing wise. If Marcus Mariota plays, he is in the fringe start range, quarterback 2, rough matchup mixed with a ton of injuries around the offense. Patrick Mahomes has been a menace this season. If you drafted him, you are just feeling like a genius. You know, you drafted the best quarterback in the NFL and it worked, despite the fact that it hasn't worked over the last few seasons. 6 of 7 games inside the top 6 at quarterback, with his only down game when they were able to cruise to victory. They rolled the windows down and cruised up against the Giants back in week 3 in prime time. Last week, the Chiefs smacked the Raiders so hard that they benched Patrick Mahomes inside the third quarter, which is so emasculating for the Raiders. 26 completions on 35 attempts for 286 yards and 3 touchdowns. 4 rushes for 28 yards as the quarterback 5. Faced the Commanders defense that just got elbow dropped by Dak Prescott last week and allows the 8th most points to quarterbacks on a per game basis. With Rashee Rice back in the fold, Patrick Mahomes is a locked and loaded top 3 option on the week. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen it already. Check out Underdog, link in the video description. Love you long time. As always, good boy.